you seeing from Saquon right now?
He's ready to go, man. It's nice. He's healthy. He's fresh. Had a really good training camp. And learning some of the new things we're doing on offense. Things that he kind of missed in the spring. But he's healthy and ready to go. And like I said, excited to see what he can do this Sunday.
He surprised me the other day when he went back to tearing his ACL, and he essentially suggested that, my words, he tried to be Superman and help the team, and felt like he learned a very valuable lesson, something that he only told us very recently. Can you relate to that, or do you kind of get where he's coming from there?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, when you have an injury like that, it takes a while to come back from, mentally and physically.
Right.
It takes a toll on you. But I think he's all the way back. He really worked on this summer. He really wanted to work on, getting his speed back and his explosion.
Yep.
And I think he's there.
Okay.
I mean, he trained up in Maryland, Arizona, all the different places, he trained at. And I think he's really running well and looks explosive. And like I said, I'm really excited, to see him at the beginning of the year here and this Sunday.
Can you relate, though, that he did maybe try to come back too quickly or try to be a hero, and he kind of equated the ACL tear to those feelings, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it takes some time. I mean, it's a usually, those injuries take 18 months to completely heal, even though most guys come back after 9-10 months.
Right.
You're not really fully back until about 18 months, when it comes to an injury like that. So I think he's in a really good place. Looks like he had a tremendous training camp for us.
Mm-hmm.
Had some nice runs last week, and like I said, looks explosive, and like I said, really excited about his progress and see what he's going to do this weekend.
How about as a leader?
Great leader. Really good guy on the team. Everybody likes him. He's a vocal leader. He'll speak up during offensive meetings. He'll speak to the team after the game. Really, really good leader. I think he's one of the 5-6 leaders on our football team for sure.
Right. Did he speak the other night after the Dallas game? I'm not asking what he said. I think
everybody did. I mean,
a lot of the leaders did.
The leaders, the guys who were the leaders of the team, spoke up and said some things, which was good.
Yep.
But we quickly turned the page and obviously on to Arizona. So that's the way it goes in the NFL.
Right.
You don't have time to really reflect on what happened last week. It's really win this day and then worry about your upcoming opponent. And the guys have done that.
Right. I guess I have one more if I can.
Okay.
It seems like I can.
Yeah.
With Saquon training in Arizona, I joked with him yesterday. He's probably been in Arizona this year more than he's been in New Jersey. Do you think that helps him conditioning-wise and everything else, that he's out there training, in sort of a competitive environment at Exos, from what I understand?
I think it helps him training out there. I don't know if it gives him an advantage, that we play there, but I definitely think they do a great job of training high-quality athletes out there. Probably, I think about 5 or 6 of our guys have trained out there, during the off season. So, he came back in tremendous shape, and like I said, he looks explosive and looks, ready to go.
I think moving forward, hopefully those lessons will be lessons they learn once, and they'll grow from it. That's what I expect. But things that have come up with them before in practice, like Trey, you gotta like it's a little too much contact right there. Tay, after 5, you gotta let them go. And now they've touched the stove, found out the stove is actually really hot, and so hopefully they grow from it, they learn from it, and we're on to other things.
Because that's one of the things that gets said a lot, that the physicality for corner in college and NFL, they're a lot stricter on it here.
Yes, a lot stricter.
That's accurate, that's what they experienced?
Yeah, and it's one of the things with, that I've dealt with Tay on a lot, because he is really physical. And I want him to be physical. But I just got to stop him at that 5-yard line. Like, after 5, you got to let him go and let him run. And now you got to go do it with your body. You can't do it with your hands anymore.
Because that first 5 yards of that penalty is probably exactly what you want,
exactly
right?
What you want. Exactly what you want. And then it's just you've accomplished everything you wanted up to that point.
Right.
That's enough. You like, clap it up. Like, just don't. The rest of it we need to cut out.
And And on the flip side of that, Adoree, playing inside, primarily, like what did you see there?
Just some lessons for us to grow from, like on the pick play, like for us to communicate there a little better with each other and get us on proper levels. For that, but that was the main thing with him, was that one pick play that we need to communicate better and execute better as a whole secondary, though, not just Adoree. Like the other guys around him too need to all be clued in, and we didn't execute. They did, and we paid because of it.
How much do you think with him it could be week to week where he lines up? Like is that where you think he'll spend?
Well, you look at Wink's defense, and like he likes to have moving pieces and guys who can do multiple jobs. So we'll see, how it plays out as we move forward. I know that the more the two young guys can move around, the more flexibility that gives us. But we'll see how that process goes as we move forward.
Sorry if you've been asked this, but with Nick McLeod moving technically back to cornerback, I know last year he was listed as a cornerback and he did a little bit of everything. He did play safety. So now he's moved back to cornerback. Will that have, how do you view that, like in his role? Like, is he now a dedicated cornerback, or is
no?
He is Swiss Army knife?
Nick is still going to be a Swiss Army knife that'll play multiple positions and do multiple roles. We like him for that reason. He's a football player for us. He's a secondary football player, and with Nick, as soon as Tay cramped, he just knew I'm the next guy in, so he just ran in. He didn't even wait to be called. He knew that was the plan. He was the first one in at corner. Darnay was the first one in at nickel, and he ran in, and so we continued to play and and function that way. But week to week, that is always going to be a moving target.
Okay. I guess I was wondering what was kind of behind moving him technically back, changing his position back.
At just the numbers of getting the best guys to the game, and what Nick does for us on special teams, he's always going to be at the game because he is such a good special teams player. He's one of our best. So he's always going to be at game, and it's kind of like week to week. All right, where do we need him?
Yep. Gotcha.
With Flott, I know he's been banged up, but he was playing back outside towards the end of camp. Just kind of what went into that, putting him back on the outside more.
Again, just flexibility for us to have moving pieces and matchup pieces, and anybody who doesn't start, the more positions you play, the better for us, or the better for me as a secondary coach, because now Adoree gets hurt, go play the nickel if you're the next guy up, or one of the rookies get hurt, so go play corner. The more flexibility like I can have if you don't start, the more value you have to us as a team.
When I asked you about Adoree, and you're saying how as the young guys can do more, is that something where like you want them just to really get the outside stuff down before you start putting too much on their plate?
Yes, absolutely.
I know the interception on the sideline, that was kind of like a scramble play. Is there anything he needs to do differently there?
Yeah, I mean, any scramble play, we always want to try to create separation and come back to the ball. And I think we learned something as an offense on that play. He learned something as a player. I mean, those are things in the scramble mode you always want to cut off the leverage of the defender. And I think, there were the moments in that game where we could have done a better job in that.
As far as Daniel, how has he adjusted to, just taking some snaps at fullback? Like, how big of an adjustment is that for him?
He did some of that in college, so we saw that on tape in college, which was good. It adds to his versatility. It adds to what the defense sees in his role. And that, along with his special teams value, just adds to what he can help our team with.
And how much does it change? That was part of the job description for his head when you have to chip and then get out. Like, does that change much for them, timing wise?
I would just say there's an awareness for the first job is the chip, the second job's the route. Generally speaking, those are jobs that don't put you in the primary part of the route, so it's protection first. But there is a technique to it. In terms of maximizing the role that we can have in the chip and then getting out to give you an outlet.
Appreciate it.
I appreciate you.
What have you seen in Darren, how he's kind of dealt this hamstring these last couple of weeks?
Yeah, I mean, professional approach to everything. He knows his body more than anyone, and he's worked through periods of this throughout his whole career. And so he remains positive. He's engaged. he's into the game plan, and more importantly, he's into what resources are available here to help him work through the process.
Has it limited anything that he can do on the field?
Really no limitations to what we're asking him to do. It's just the matter of how we choose to balance the load, and be smart with the load. But I mean, he's willing and able, and we're excited to have him out there.
When you have a veteran guy like that who's dealt with those things in the past, like, do you trust that he knows, what he can do and what he can't?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm not the kind of guy who's going to ask him after every play, how do you feel? How do you feel? I assume through communication and building a relationship with him that if he's on the field, he's ready to go. And we're smart with his loads, whether he was 100% healthy or injured. We're trying to be smart with his loads. And, when you're a 30-year-old guy in the NFL, you're going to have nicks and bruises, and you just work through that.
What's the mood been like in your guys' room this week in the O-line room?
Pretty typical. I mean, ready to learn, ready to improve, ready to move on to the next game, kind of like we have. Yep.
Where do you start with corrections from Dallas?
Just like any game, you kind of go back and look at what you did wrong, what was the cause of it. More often than not, you find out it's more you than the opponent. And then you move on to what you did well, and then you move on to the next game. You got to try to put a book, close on as fast as you can.
When you did look at the film, you kind of alluded to it there. When you looked at the film, did you see a lot of those self-inflicted mistakes?
I mean, we saw mistakes. I'll leave it at that. We saw mistakes.
Was it frustrating to go back and look at that?
I mean, every game has some things that you wish you could do differently, and that happens in wins. So biggest thing is, I come away from it I try to look at it personally as the coach, is what can I do different to help the guys prepare, and that's what I've moved on to this week, is to say, okay, what issues presented by this opponent, and that's what we've done. We've really moved on to that, because you got to address that right away. You got to address what the upcoming opponent is, because that game was how many days ago? It's a long time ago, and we play the next opponent sooner, so that's where we're at.
Bobby, how do you look? Evan Neal did a lot of corrections, was obviously, from all accounts here, very proactive in trying to change some things about his rookie season, and then it starts, and it is probably exactly what happened to him against the Cowboys last year.
I disagree, but he's improved. He's put a lot of time in, and he continues to improve. So I just disagree with it. It was the same as last year for him, but it doesn't really matter, because we're a group. We're not a collection of individuals. We're a group, and obviously it wasn't what we wanted, and we're going to try to improve that in the next opponent.
But you still got to worry about individual psyches. So I guess that's what I was getting at, is when a guy struggles as much as he did, what do you worry about? How do you handle him bouncing back?
I would just say this. Every guy has an issue to correct, and we've addressed those corrections, and the guys are working hard to address those corrections as well.
What did you see on topic of Evan, but also Mark, those two together, I guess, from that right side specifically?
I saw a lot of issues, as us as a group, and we addressed them all. So, each guy's got things that they need to address. Like I said, each guy's addressing them. I've addressed them as their coach. They've addressed them. A lot of times I ask them to tell me what they see, and they've addressed them. They've acknowledged them like professionals. So we're addressing them in practice. We're moving on to the issues that are presented by the Cardinals, and that's kind of where we're at.
Bobby, do you think the guard rotation in camp prevented maybe chemistry from forming with a five?
I don't think so. I mean, I know a lot of people think that, but I mean, I know that. I'm just saying that the same thing could be said of, like, hey, you get a guy injured hypothetically and they miss time and then they go back in. It's just, that's the nature of the league. There's a lot of people, I mean, people get hurt, people miss time, and there's a lot of things. So I don't think that was a culprit. I think that I don't think that had a role in it.
Dave's has told us that there's that Azudu has been working at left tackle a little bit. Mm-hmm. If, I'm not asking if Andrew's going to play, but if Azudu's called on to play left tackle, what gives you confidence that that's a good spot for him when he obviously didn't win a job at guard?
We prepare for a lot of different scenarios week in, week out. We prepare for a lot of things. We pray for a lot of personnel issues that may arise. You got to be prepared. You can't wait till they happen. So I have a lot of confidence in a lot of things that we work on. And the only way you're going to find out if the guy's ready is if he has to do it. So if he's called upon it, I'm confident that he'll be able to step up.
I'm sorry, what I was trying to say is, like, most people, not offensive line coaches, but layman people would say left tackle is the hardest position to play. So if he didn't win a job at guard, why is he better? Why is he capable or better suited?
For whatever situation, you only have so many guys on game day. You know what I mean? So that's kind of, you prepare for all the situations that could come up, and that's what you do. And if they come up, the guys at least have been exposed to it.
You didn't get to see Marcus at all last year, McKeithen, because of the ACL, obviously. So where have you seen in particular like his growth and his development this summer?
I mean, practice. I mean, he's been out here all training camp, busting his ass, and he's a good young man. He carries himself like a professional. He studies, he prepares. He works hard on the things we ask him to do from a drill and technique standpoint. So I think like a lot of the guys in the room, I have confidence in a lot of the guys in the room, and he's just another one of them.
What do you see from his skill set?
He's got mass, he's got length, he's balanced, he's strong, he's smart, tough, dependable. So I mean, those are the things that I've seen out of him thus far. So, like I said, I have confidence in Marcus because I've seen him every day at practice.
You mentioned you might have to make a few changes as a coach, or just change things up a little bit. Not changes as a coach. I think you said that earlier.
No, I said that we prepare for a lot of different situations and scenarios.
Did you do anything differently this week? Is what I'm getting.
Well, we got to prepare for a lot of things. You know what I'm saying? So I do different things every week. Maybe things that people don't expect, because you just have to go. And there's things that we, as a coaching staff, we talk about. Hey, what if this happens? Did you at least practice it? So those are the type of things we've handled. You know, various situations. So we addressed them all this week.
When a game starts poorly, how as a line do you gotta get a grip on it and stop it from snowballing?
Well, I mean, I felt like the game started. First drive started off pretty good with the running. You know, we had a couple of mistakes. So the best thing you do is you just try to get the guys to calm down. They got enough stimulus already. I try to tell the guys that I try to promise them that I'll keep even keeled during the game, because they've got a lot of other things going on. They got to block people. They got, all the things are running through their head. So I just try to keep them keeled, bring them back to the things at hand. I try to bring them back to an issue, positive or negative. All right. Address what may happen in the future when they go out for the next series, and then get them locked into what we're thinking as a play calls when they go back out. Try to get them focused on the moment, not what happened. Focus on the moment and the things that could pop up and how they're going to react to it. That's it.
What's your overall confidence level that your guys' pass protection will be better this week than last?
I have confidence. I'm not going to put a number on it.
I was going to say, what gives you that sense of confidence?
Because we work at it. They're professionals. The guys have handled themselves like pros. They worry about more what's going on inside the building than outside the building.
How much do you worry about Evan's mentality and confidence? Is that something you have to manage as a young player? I mean, when there are those ups and downs,
we manage them all the same. I mean, I should say this: we address the issues, whether it be from whatever angle, physical, technical, whatever it may be. We address them. We try to give them some tools to apply to correct the issue. We practice that, and then we try to move on from it. So, meaning we apply the tools, we practice it, and then we try to put it into practice, and then we move on to the next game and see how we do with that, with what we give them as tools. So that's what we've done with them. You try not to handle guys differently. You know what I mean? I mean, every guy's a little bit different, but you don't just all of a sudden start, making things up. You worry about what's inside the building, not outside.
I think maybe though you'd have to deal with a younger player maybe differently than like Glowinski compared to Evan. Glowinski's been a starter in this league for a while.
I basically just make it black and white. I mean, you don't handle them with kid gloves. You know what I'm saying? You're honest with them. I think all of them as professionals want honesty. You handle them honestly. Here's the issue. Here's how we're going to fix it. Here's how we're going to give you tools to fix it, and then we move on from it. That's what I'm saying.
So what did you see?
John Michael.
Say again?
John Michael. I don't think he's been asked about yet. What did you see from him? Obviously,
I tell you what, John Michael showed a lot of competitive stamina. You know what I mean? John Michael showed a lot of command at the line of scrimmage. So I was pleased with how he fought. You know what I mean? I was pleased with how he fought.
What do you think of the Cardinals' pass rush? What challenge do they present?
I think everybody presents a challenge. I mean, they play hard. They play with a lot of energy. They play fast. So I think those are just things in general. You got to address those because you got to exceed their energy. So I'm impressed with what Coach Gannon's done out there already in one game.
And Daniel's performance in the opener.
Yeah, I mean, obviously none of us are happy with what any of us did, coaching, playing, all that. So just kind of a move on, get ready for this week, and flush that one. We're behind it, and we're get on to Arizona and go play well. Just execute.
The second interception, is it just like, is that an easy coaching point? It's like you just can't do that, or what do you?
Yeah, I mean, anytime we make a decision like that, we're always trying to learn from it. The more we're moving out of the pocket, the more things are moving around that we can possibly see or not see, and that's the thing always when you learn from every throw, not just a bad one, but a good one as well. Like maybe, the scramble that he had later was very similar to his left side. So you just talk through the scenarios of what happened on the first one as opposed to what happened on the second one, and try to learn from both.
How, like for a quarterback, that's kind of obvious too. Like, how challenging is it to manage when you're just constantly under pressure? Like, what's the counter to that as a quarterback?
Yeah, the whole thing that we get back to is our job is to make good decisions and lead the team to score points, no matter what's going on, and that's ultimately always the job of the quarterback. Good, bad, indifferent. He's the guy that's got the ball in his hands. So the number one thing that we talk about when things like that are happening is just making good decisions.
How tough is it not to get your kind of clock sped up when sometimes maybe the rush isn't there, but you've been under pressure?
Yeah, that's kind of the feel of the game, I would say. Every game's different. Sometimes that clock can be a click later. Sometimes the clock is a click sooner. And that's goes back into the decision making. It always comes back to that decision. So if you have to speed up your decision making because of what's going on, then that's how you kind of adjust.
How much do you think just in general, does getting a new contract add pressure to a guy like Daniel? Do you see it that way? Because the natural thing is, you saw it in the opener. Second something goes wrong, the outside public is like paying you $160 million.
Yeah, no, we're focused on us inside the building and don't know any of that, to be honest. It's the same thing. We're trying to make good decisions and lead the team down to score points. Doesn't matter if you make $160 million or $150,000. That's the job.
Is it a joke? Maybe you'll at least make the Daniel without the money? Not even.
Maybe that's done when it first happens, but now, no, we're just focused on trying to go out there and win games, no matter what, contracts, all that stuff. That's all done way in the past.
What's the challenge this week for you guys, specifically the quarterback, against this Arizona defense?
Yeah, they do a really good job. Jonathan Gannon, Nick Rallis, obviously coming from Philadelphia, they went out there, took a lot of the similar stuff that they've done, and they got those guys playing really hard.
Looks a lot similar to Philly?
It's similar. I mean, it's a very similar system, yeah, but they have obviously some different players. There's different tweaks that, you do anywhere you go. You try to fit it to, the players you have. So the biggest challenge here is, they play hard. They play fast. They were very opportunistic. So challenge for us is just going out there and playing a clean game and executing the offense.
Is there anything you guys can change in the play calling when he's under duress like that?
I think that's probably a better question for Mike.
Yeah.
I thought Mike did a great job doing that and trying to handle those things, and we all can do a better job with helping him too. Maybe a better suggestion here or there or something like that. But yeah, I think we just all got to do better.
I came in and all got to do better. Was the question about Daniel?
Just in general about just the style of how we're playing and things like that against the rush like that. Anything like that happens, I put that on not just a play caller or a quarterback or the line. That's on all of us. Right. It's all of our job to do it better and come up with better ways, better solutions. The one thing I took from Coach Saban when I was at Alabama, things like that, is it's everybody's responsibility to figure out a better way, no matter what role you're in.
Right.
How do you feel like? I'm sorry. How do you feel like Daniel is at flushing a bad game mentally?
I feel like he's great at that. Yeah. He's a mentally tough kid. Since I've been here, that's been one of the top things I've noticed about him. Mentally tough. That doesn't affect him. I can tell you right now, he's moved on. It's Friday now. He's moved on for a good while now.
So I want to ask you about Isaiah.
Yeah.
Right. What's the transition been like for him, and how much more are you capable of putting on him at this point?
I think Isaiah's come in and has done a really good job of picking up the system, picking up the scheme. With him, I think it's going to be from a week to week. We'll just kind of look at, like we do with all of our players, like, hey, how can we use the guys that we have? How can we put them in the best position to be successful? You know what I mean? I think that's something we'll reevaluate from week to week.
What have you learned about him since he's been here?
Yeah, I mean, he's long and athletic. I know that. He's a guy that he's committed to football, loves it, studies. You know what I mean? I always talk about him, how he keeps his notes in the highlighter, things like that on his iPad. You know what I mean? So he's been a really, really good addition to our room with the other guys, and is really, I know those guys hang out together a bunch, right? So he's really got just kind of immersed himself in pretty good with his teammates, our room, with the rest of the guys on defense, and also overall.
What do you think generally when you get a player who's he has got that athleticism and length?
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean to you? Like, what do you generally think? Okay, how can we use this?
Yeah. I mean, in a lot of ways, length is a great asset if you have it. You know what I mean? Coverage wise, getting off blocks, tackling, all facets of football. You know what I mean? It helps. You know what I mean? And so, as we, get a feel for each other, get a feel for his game, some of the things what are his strengths, what are the things that we want to continue to work on. I think that's going to be an ever-going process with him. And then along with, as we look from week to week, it's like, hey, how is the best ways we can use all of our players? And that'll be the same with him.
Obviously, when you play your former team, especially with the way it ended for him, it means something, right? How much have you sensed that this week? Hey, I get a chance to show Arizona.
I haven't sensed much of that at all from him. I think he's taken. The only thing I think he's been worried about is making sure his house is okay down there. I don't think he's been away with it. Other than that, you know what I mean. He's taken this week like the previous week and just studying, ready to go. Obviously, he's got some added things he can give to us based on personnel, being there for a long time, understanding some of those players and some of their tendencies, things like that. He's really helped us along with those things. So I think he's taken this on just like a normal week.
Micah seems to be playing really well. How has he taken another step here?
I think it's that, that progression from your rookie year to your sophomore year, everything's just slowed down for him. Understanding just like what our offense is trying to do. You're not doing as much thinking about like, what is my actual responsibility, in this call. It's more or less, I've done this call a bunch of different times. Now I'm like more in tune to like, what is the offense? What are the formation? What are the keys, the indicators that I'm looking around? And now he's getting to that process where it's slowed down for him. And now he's able to play a little bit more free, play faster, have better anticipation. It just comes with the more experience.
The backers have said that you have them like right on the board themselves what they want to work on.
Yeah.
You think that really has like paid dividends and kind of how they take incremental steps?
I'm a firm believer you get what you emphasize. You know what I mean? And I think for each of I try to tell the guys this is what we want to get out of. I think the keys for us this week that we've got to perform, that I've got to be in charge of, right? But individually, you know what I mean? You guys all have the things that you want to individually work on, right? What are those things, right? How are you, bringing light to it, right? How are you structuring your week individually, in terms of your own work? Because we can't there's only so much time we have with guys out here. And so they can take some ownership in their own development too. And we try to just put some stuff on the board, one or two things that they can focus on, right? Hey, I know I want to, particularly these things, to get better. Obviously, there's other parts of your game you want to continue to improve, but it just, let's get specific on some of those things. And so I think it's been a big help. You know what I mean? I think it's been a big help for our guys, been a big help for me too, in terms of how I structure my week for our guys. Appreciate it, no problem.
What can Bobby do better than he did in week one?
Yeah, I think for Bobby, you know what I mean, is just going out there and playing free. You know what I mean? Just don't overthink it. You know what I mean? Just go. He's a talented football player, and that's going to show up. You know what I mean? So he's just got to go be himself, and he will. He will. You know what I mean? It's a long season. I tell those guys, don't ride the roller coaster, right? It's a long season, right? Find the things that you can do better at. Right? Make a plan for it, and then just go on to the next week, and hopefully you improve. You don't make the same mistakes, and that's how we approach with every one of our guys.
And stuff like that. How much of that is a product of game flow rather than how effective your guys really were? Because I think they less than a handful of true straight dropbacks in the game?
Yeah, I think the important thing really in any game is you make the most of those opportunities, however many they are. So always things to build on, always things, you recognize areas for growth. Just got to keep attacking those week by week,
Sorry to even ask this, but if you don't have Aziz this week, you kind of know what hot he can bring, but Boogie has had a limited window here. What have you noticed from him? What have you seen from him?
Boogie's done a great job learning the playbook, coming in early, staying late, really honing in on different techniques that we have, different, assignments that are, foreign from the Buffalo system to this system, getting, pairing some of that language and understanding, hey, some of these calls match up, some of them are different, I got to put those in different buckets, learn it that way. So he's attacked those details to learn it really well, and then really like what we're seeing on the field. He's a worker, and he's physical, he throws his body in there on pullers and plungers, and he's really, fits what we do really well. Credit to the personnel guys for identifying a guy out there that really fits our scheme and fits what we do.
You sound like you've been encouraged by him.
Oh yeah, he's been really encouraging, and that's never easy. Separate from any of the football stuff, you just drop into a different city with a different group of people, and he's responded really well to the football side and just getting familiar with how we do things here at the Giants.
How much of an adjustment is that to go from being a 4-3 hand in the dirt at the end to what you guys asked your outside linebackers to do?
Yeah, I think you kind of expand your techniques to different things that really aren't a part of their system, and some of that's coverage, some of it's where we align, how we play blocks, and honestly some of it's just different blocks that our scheme gets that their scheme wouldn't as much. So it's playing things really for the first time for him in different ways, and he's been great at it. And he's really, you see when you practice hard, you play hard, and this is a guy that does both.
I know Isaiah's with the inside linebacker group generally, but how much, if at all, do you consider him part of your group, because he's going to be in packages where he basically is playing as sort of like an outside linebacker?
Yeah, so the same way we've had to get Boogie up to speed in our room, Johnny Egg's done an unbelievable job of getting him up to speed and learning the defense from the inside backer room. But what it does is having these versatile players that can do different things. All it takes is, when they understand the full defense, say, hey, you two just switch responsibilities here, and now this guy can rush, this guy can drop, and really having those guys with that versatility and knowing the defense at a high level, that really helps us all, and it gives Wink weapons to throw at the quarterback from different angles.
How has Aziz kind of handled this setback? Because obviously I know last year was very frustrating for him, and kind of here we go again a little bit.
I'm going to let Daves talk about all those injuries. I understand the question and everything. I'm going to let Daves handle all those.
If you don't have, how much of a loss would that be?
Same thing. I would let Daves handle all that, and we'll just worry about that when the time comes.
What buttons, if anything, do you press with Kayvon going into this week, or do you kind of let him take care of elevating?
Yeah, I think with everybody, you're always pushing for the best they can be. So whether it was last year after the Washington game or after last week or any game in between, we're always going to want to find the next level for things. So it's understanding that consistently searching for greatness out of him and everybody in our room. That goes after after a win, after a loss, after a good performance, after one that wasn't as great. We just every single week understand we're going to come in Monday morning ready to improve. Separate from the score, separate from everything else. That's how we attack it, and it's keeping that level of consistently pushing every one of those guys is what's going to get us there.
How did he personally react to his own performance and the game the other day?
Yeah, I think in a game like that, you look at it big picture and understand we all, just got to keep improving, right? Like there's always that next week until there's not. And right now we got a next opponent next week, and so we're just gonna, when we sit in that room, hey, this is how this team's going to play that. We got to improve this from this week to next, and understand, every game's different, every situation's different, but we got to just keep creating those opportunities for ourselves, and when we get those opportunities, make the most of them.
Drew, the way that Dallas's pass rush dictated that game, do you feel like you guys are capable of doing that? Obviously, you didn't last week, but do you feel like you guys have the personnel, the scheme, etc., to be able to dictate games the way Dallas just did?
I think just looking across the league, separate from Dallas, separate from us, it's like when you are able to create situations that are high leverage, third down, 2-minute situations, that's when you can really turn up a pass rush. And that's something, separate from any other team, we understand playing great first and second down football earns those opportunities. Building a lead in the game earns those opportunities. So all these things that, from day one, our techniques and our fundamentals, those are the things that are going to create those opportunities for us. And then when we get them, it's making the most out of it.